Hello friends and fellow Vedsies, coming at you from my kitchen again. It is day 24 of Veds and it is Thoughts Thursday. So I just ran 5 miles this morning, and so I thought that while I was sharing with you today's thoughts, I would also make myself a hearty breakfast/lunch. And hydrate. Hydration's important. So as most of you probably already know by now, one of my jobs, and now actually 2 of my jobs, we'll go with R. 2 of my jobs are working as praise team leaders for contemporary Christian services. Now Christianity, and possibly other religions too, I honestly don't know, but Christianity for sure has a long and storied tradition of conflict and contention when it comes to introducing elements of popular culture into the traditional church atmosphere. I was holding a knife the whole time I said that. This is especially true in music. The rule of music for a long time, 1,000 years ago, was plain chant, which is exactly what it sounds. It's chanting in a very plain and simple way. The early leaders of the church were very, very much afraid of the aesthetics of music distracting from what was supposed to be the holy experience of the text. But as it happens, plain chant's kind of boring. And so people started introducing elements of what was popular at the time into their music. For example, musical instruments, having more than one person sing, having harmony, having more complex and interesting songs. And like I said, the leaders of the church were very much afraid that all of this new complexity in the music was becoming distracting, that people were straying away from the actual text and the actual reason that they were supposed to be in church. But church composers like Palestrina and several others were able to convince them that aesthetic music could be a holy experience and it could create for a worshipful atmosphere, which is why we have more complicated music in church today, and we don't still use plain chant. Okay, I have not quite the amount of flour that I need for this recipe, and so we're gonna see if this is still gonna work. And in the latter half of the 20th century, we of course have the reason why I have a church job right now, the Christian rock movement. Now Christian rock, of course, is nothing new. It's been around since about the 60s and 70s. And it came about because people were looking at the music of the church, which at the time were old stuffy hymns and organ music, and they came to the conclusion that people would be more likely to come to church if the music sounded a little bit more like the stuff that they heard on the radio. And so people started writing music like that, but of course the leaders of the church were concerned that these popular styles of music were going to distract for the reason that they thought they should be in church. It's sounding awfully familiar. Now, most of this conflict has pretty much died down. In a lot of churches you'll find have a contemporary style service with a praise team with drums and guitar and all that sort of thing, like the kind that I lead, and a traditional service that still uses the old hymns and the organ and all that sort of thing. However, now an argument that seems to be coming up with regards to music in church is whether to use secular popular music. Not just a secular popular style, but actual secular popular music in a religious setting. And as it happens, all 3 of the pastors that I work for have encouraged me to, if I find a secular popular song that is appropriate for the service, to use it. And if you go on the internet, you will find a number of people who are very much in favor of this idea. You will find many who are very much against this idea. And I mean, it's really the old argument again. Is the music going to be distracting for the worshipful experience, or is it going to add to it? And my thoughts on this are, it is okay to use secular music in a sacred setting. I'm actually going to use a couple of secular songs in the next couple of weeks at my church, but you need to go about it in the right way. I have a real problem with churches that use some sort of secular music, but they completely twist its meaning to mean something religious. I have an issue with that. Sometimes because it just completely goes against what the composer was trying to say, and sometimes because it starts to get into parody territory. You know, like that South Park episode where Cartman realizes that all you have to do to write contemporary Christian music is take the love songs in popular music and replace like all the babies and stuff with Jesus. And it starts to feel alarmingly like the church is using secular music not because the message of the secular song is consistent with what they're preaching, but because they're just trying to be cool. And I desperately want to avoid the appearance that the church is trying to be cool. So I am curious to know what you think about the use of secular music in a sacred setting. Do you think it should be used, shouldn't be used, should only be used in certain circumstances? This is a non-rhetorical question, so please let me know in the comments. I'm very interested to see the discussion on this. Even if you're not a particularly religious person, I'm sure you have an opinion on this, so please share, and I look forward to reading your comments. And with that said, I'm going to pour this batter into that hot pan and put it in the oven. So until next time, friends and fellow Vedsies, see you tomorrow.